Well, the Oscars.
Okay, maybe somebody take over for Matt here. That's a fitting way to after that shocking ending of the Oscars.
Basically, how it ended. They were like Hopkins.
I mean, I think this is a more exciting ending.
Wow.
At the beginning.
So yeah, after more than 3 hours, they moved Steven Soderbergh producing the Oscars with Stacey Sher and Jesse Collins. They moved Best Picture to third to last rather than last, presumably setting up a Chadwick Boseman Best Actor win. They have it all lined up, and Anthony Hopkins wins Best Actor for The Father.
Which was also like a very deserved win, I must say. But yeah, very anticlimactic.
Completely deserved it. I think a lot of people were really thrilled that he won. But after this award season, just an unbelievable finish. I just think like I can't. It's definitely up there with Moonlight and La La Land for myself. I mean,
like when they brought out Rita Moreno for Best Picture, third to last, I was like, oh, he's gonna make Best Actress last because he knows that's the most suspenseful, and like all 5 of them are there. But nope, that was penultimate.
So I don't know about you guys, but I got just wiped out there at the end on my predictions. I had Chadwick Boseman winning Best Actor. I had Andra Day winning Best Actress. And I went for a wild upset pick on Promising Young Woman because I felt like Nomadland had not a lot of momentum, and I was completely wrong the whole time. And I was really kind of like foolishly thinking that Nomadland was not going to win because I was like, wow, it really only won Best Director because we did not have Best Actress to rely on. Usually like a Best Picture winner maybe wins 3 awards like we've seen normally. And I was like, oh, this is great. It's definitely not going to win. I'm going to be so right. And then no. And because they did it third to last. Rob, you're back. I see.
Matt, yes, but I am back. Bad internet connection from the car. Driving around the country.
You're just like calling a classic Bill Camp here.
Yeah, it helps you win Oscars, doesn't help you run Oscar post shows. So what I might do is I might head to a better Wi-Fi located area. But first, welcome to everyone watching the show. Joyce, what was your big takeaway from tonight?
Results wise, no love for Chicago 7, the only Best Picture nominee not to win anything. Very disappointed that Husavik was robbed of that grateful original song win. That was the only category I cared about. I cared about that more than Best Actress. Good for her, but nothing against her, but Husavik deserved. And yeah, Frances McDormand, man, she has never lost a Best Actress race. She's only lost her supporting contests. So, if you want to go up against Frances McDormand, you better hope that she's in supporting actress and not lead actress. And then at the end there, Anthony Hopkins, I almost predicted him today because I actually flipped coins for those 2 categories. And I made the wrong switch with actress because I was like, I cannot rely on a coin for 2 categories. So my bad. But the show itself, not a lot of energy. The beginning was great, I thought, with Regina King, with that long walk to the stage and that intro. But then, no clips for like an hour and a half until animated feature where, Disney makes a killing all the time. And yeah, it was just off. Like I thought it had a lot of potential and I sort of liked what they were going for there, but there was just a lot of elements missing that would have really taken it to another level, like clips and just visuals in general. And then that In Memoriam was insane. Like I know they fit a lot of people in there, but the pace and then like they sped it up like 2 times as fast. It was crazy. Yeah, I don't remember what else happened because I stopped.
Well, Glenn's moment, that was
obviously
the best moment of the night. She actually saved the show.
She's never losing an Oscar again.
She's got to win whatever she's up for next. I mean, they have to give it to her. It's just a requirement now.
I thought like that. It was funny, like having that right in that part. I think a lot of people were eye rolling, like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're doing a bit at 10:45 Eastern." You know, with like four.
Oh, that was me.
3 awards. That was all.
And it was right after Who's the Big Boss, so I was not in the mood.
And yet it was so good, and it made me want to like. I like actually like the show with no host. I think having like the little segments worked really well, but there came a point where there just wasn't enough energy, and I was like, why wouldn't they have like just do something like that? And you have all these like really funny people there. Like I just wish we could have had a little more of that. And even if like I'm almost like, was the Glenn thing that funny, or was it just that we had gone like an hour and a half with nothing but like Harrison Ford got a laugh for like reading old hackneyed Blade Runner like edits? I was like, this is rough if that's like the second funniest part of the night. So yeah, that was kind of. That was just maybe a little more energy from the show.
Yeah, I think it was a really they nailed, I think, the intimacy of the setting, and I think that really played really well. I think the sort of celebration of filmmaking, what people contribute to put films together, was done really well. I sort of like those aspects. But it was a very, I think sometimes industry awards can be accused of being quite self-important. And I think you need comedy bits and levity to undercut that. And really not much of that at all tonight. And very bizarre leaving the comedic sort of bit with the guessing the songs, which Andrew Day really delivered with so well in that segment as well. So late in the show. Yeah.
Yeah, we had, the first few presenters, we had Regina, Laura, and Reese, and they were also endearing in their comments to the nominees. When Laura was looking straight at Daniel, they feel like they had this moment, and then after that, it just kind of died down. We didn't have clips. And until the Glenn moment, I was like, I miss the parts of the show where they do these awkward things in the crowd, or at least bring people from the crowd in to make it more interactive. And they finally did, but it was too late. And by then I was like, oh my God, it's 10:45. This has to be over in 15 minutes. Like, how are they going to get 3 categories done and then in memoriam? And they did it, but not well.
It's because Francis only spoke for 10 seconds and the best actor wasn't there.
Yeah. It was, okay.
Sorry. No, I still can't believe they just ended with best. I mean, that is like a really calling that's like, let's just do it and be legends. Like, we just think, what if, I just can't believe they would end with that on the off chance that Chadwick Boseman would lose.
Yeah, like you just can't.
I can't believe, and knowing Anthony Hopkins wasn't even going to be there,
right. And you have to know it was between the two of them.
Right. Like if he was ifs, ands, or buts, if he was there, like maybe he goes up and says like, oh, we could pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman or whatever, right? You could imagine like a winner saying something like that in his speech. But with nobody there, it was just Joaquin Phoenix, like not even on camera, basically being like, he's not here. Go home. Everybody leave. Let's just get out of here. Get out of the studio. Get out of the station. It's fine. It's done.
So he already had the ballot opened, and I thought he was just going to read it straight off, and I was like, oh crap. And then he read Anthony first, and they weren't in alphabetical order, and I was like, wait, is it Anthony? And obviously it was. I was like, oh my God, maybe he knew and was just like, because in Joaquin's speech, he was like, it doesn't matter, we all are deserving. And I was like, maybe it's not Chadwick at this point.
So you're saying he went off script?
Maybe he was like, he looked and he was like, this is not the ending everybody is looking for.
Yeah, I think the Oscars this year, we ended on one of the sort of big surprise of the night, although on amongst Gold Derby editors and predictors, there was a late break towards Anthony Hopkins in the past week. I think The Father was also favourite to win Best Screenplay tonight, but it became favourite very recently. There was so much precursor love for Chadwick Boseman, so much support for him in the industry and among cinema goers. He's obviously had an incredible and left an indelible mark on the film industry. How was Anthony able to do it? How is he the winner that we ended our night with? What do you think, Chris?
I mean, I think it was just based on it's like the performance. I think like everyone knows that was a great performance. I think there was a lot of, hope, and I think Chadwick Boseman is great in the movie. I do think he probably should have won, honestly. I thought his performance is the best, but I understand that, like, maybe it was more of, a different kind of performance. And I think Anthony Hopkins, the oldest Best Actor winner, also has a very compelling narrative. And I also think that the length of the season really kind of was a detriment to the Chadwick Boseman candidacy. I think, like, if this Oscars was a month ago, he would have easily won. Nobody would have even expected anything other than that. But as the season wore on, as the father kind of built up this momentum, it just kind of broke late, and there you go. I think, the BAFTA win was really big in hindsight, and then also the Riz Ahmed win at the Spirit Awards ended up being pretty predictive of this as well, because Chadwick lost there when you would have maybe expected him to win. So I think that's really what happened. It's possible that, I think with both, honestly, with the Best Actor and Best Actress categories, you could argue they ended up giving the award to the best performance, regardless of narrative. Like, I think Frances McDormand in Best Actress was definitely the best performance. I was really psyched for her to win. I had her not even in the top 3, I don't think, at any point, because I was just like, well, she's already won 2, and, the narrative is not there for her to win. So for once, maybe they gave it to the best performances. I guess that would be my thing. And the father broke late, and that was to Anthony Hopkins' credit. And there you go.
Yeah, I think it was like just performance. Like, that was like pure merit for Anthony Hopkins. Like, I don't even think there was any narrative of him being the oldest acting winner ever. Like, who was even talking about that? Like, except us, But like, and yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Like, I think the long season did Chad in, but also, if you remember, Anthony Hopkins, that back in January 2020, he was the front runner for Best Actor. And, at a point last year, we thought like, people thought like Delroy Lindo was going to be like his top rival. And then Ma Rainey came along. But I do think, that's a performance that just stays with people. Like I saw the father in October, and I was like, I hadn't seen any like other Best Actor like performance really at that point, and like, but who did? And I was like he should win. Like, that was the best performance. And I think that's just what people voted on. And like Chris said, the father broke late. We saw like tons of people watching it over the past month, saying like that was the best performance of his career, his masterpiece, and it just stays with them. And Chad's performance is deserving as well, but I don't think people are left with that same like feeling, or just it doesn't like resonate the same way after you finish watching Ma Rainey. And we had hints too that like Ma Rainey was weak because it missed Best Picture and missed Best Adapted Screenplay, and yet some people were predicting it to win 4 Oscars tonight, and it won 2, the ones that it was completely locked for. So
yeah, that's very fair. Nick, did you want to chip in on the Anthony Hopkins upset win that capped off our night?
Yeah, I mean, I could just echo what everyone said already. Do we think that there was a split? Like, maybe Riz took some votes away from Chadwick, and then Anthony had the upper hand? That's probably the only thing. And then, the father was released. Maybe it was the last release of these films, so maybe that helped with voters as well, as like fresh in their minds, versus films that came out in October, November, like a normal season. But since it was so long, it stuck with voters more. And I mean, I agree that this was my favorite performance. I think out of Hopkins too, it's my favorite of his ever. So it's deserving. It's just shocking how this ended.
Yeah, there are a lot of Academy member ballots that we saw in the past couple of weeks of voters saying we should like, I'm gonna vote for Anthony Hopkins, but I'm sure Chadwick Boseman will win. And I think at the end of the day, Anthony Hopkins just had a performance that there was a lot of passion behind, and people loved that performance, and they really sort of wanted to vote for it. So I think that's what happened there. Obviously, another huge surprise of the night was Frances McDormand winning Best Actress for Nomadland. I've been wanting to pick her all season. I thought it's a divided field, and how could the Best Picture winner not have a serious claim to make on the Best Actress award? I eventually went with what conventional wisdom was saying as well. She's just won recently. It's too many, and there's other strong performance, and went with Mulligan. So I was wrong, but I could see the appeal for McDormand. If you love Nomadland, surely she's so big a part of that film. Is that why she won? Is there another explanation? What do you think, Joyce?
Yeah, I think it's performance and just loving. I mean, if you love the film, you love her. And also, this race was completely fractured. We had no idea who was going to win. And, she had okay, first of all, both BAFTA lead acting winners won the Oscars. And no one was giving them a chance 2 weeks ago after they won those BAFTAs because, of the juries, blocking 3 of the Best Actress nominees. So Frances only beat Vanessa Kirby. Poor Vanessa Kirby didn't win anything this season. But yeah, if the Best Actress was as divided a race as we all assume it was, then it also wouldn't take, or maybe didn't take, Frances a lot of votes to win. It could be so evenly divided that it would just take a little over 20% for her to win, maybe 25%. So it probably took Anthony Hopkins more votes or a higher percentage of votes to beat Chadwick Boseman, if you believe that was a 2-horse race, than it did for Frances McDormand to beat those 4 other women. And people, I think, we talk about oh, she can't win because she just won her second one 3 years ago. But I think that's something we care about more than voters. I think, most of them, they might remember that she won 3 years ago for 3 Billboards, but maybe they don't remember that she won for Fargo, in 97. So maybe they think this is her second one. I don't know. But I think that type of data and those stats matter more to us than to voters who are just voting for their favorites.
Does anyone here think that it was a good decision to announce Best Picture third last at the awards? Does anyone, show of hands, anyone think that was good? Oh, here we go. Put it out there, Chris.
I'll do it. I'll tell you why. Because Nomadland winning Best Picture was completely anticlimactic, right? I tried to talk myself into anything but Nomadland winning, but Nomadland literally won out every major ceremony, right? So there was no drama with that. So having, even with the massive letdown perhaps of Anthony, they obviously wanted the Chadwick Boseman tribute probably at the end. Even with that, having those 2 Best Actor and Actress winners at the end, those were the 2 most compelling races of this Oscars, right? I think Best Actress, obviously we've talked about, they could have, any one of those 4, sorry, Vanessa Kirby, could have won, and it would have been a big surprise, or a great moment. And then either Chadwick winning would have been great, or again, we saw, a huge upset with Anthony Hopkins winning for a performance that I think people love. So I could understand when they're mapping it out, doing that. I kind of think, Joyce and I were chatting during it, I think they should have actually put Best Actress last, because it was the most compelling race, and it kind of would have avoided, I can't imagine that in their production meeting somebody wasn't what if Chadwick Boseman doesn't win, right? They had to at least have thought of that. So it did feel a little maybe they were just pushing too far to disrupt by having it last. I just think that would have been such a, I don't know, but I actually did not mind it, because again, Nomadland was such an overwhelming choice that it's if it would have won, it would have been okay, it won, right? We would have been shrug at the end anyway. Now at least we're oh my God, I can't believe that's how the Oscars end. So I'm on team moving it around.
Yeah, I didn't mind that it was third to last, honestly. Almost for those same reasons that Chris said. Because we expected to be Nomadland, and it was Nomadland. Sorry, it wasn't Promising Young Woman or your predictions. but like when they did that, like I thought they were gonna do actress last, and then like Renee came out. Happy birthday, Renee Zellweger. Today's also her birthday. I felt like, you know, she was gonna do actor because that's what they usually did with like the opposite gender category. But then she's like, I'm here to present Best Actress. I was like, oh my god, like you're doing actor last. That's not a good idea. Yeah, so I didn't really mind that. I think we've just all been like, yes, it's the biggest category, and we've all been conditioned to believe that it should be last. But I don't think they should do it every year, obviously, but I didn't mind it for this year because those two categories were the most interesting and compelling. They just did it in the wrong order. And then, you know, if like Best Actress had been last, like I think Frances would still have given that same speech. So we would have just had someone talking for like 30 seconds instead of Joaquin Phoenix saying goodnight. So I think if it was like, if, you know, like any of the other four actresses had won, like we would have gotten a longer speech. It'd been like way more emotional, but that's just not Frances's style, and I love her for that. So, you know, we just got what we got, and they just, you know, Steven Soderbergh, like the producers just rolled the dice with that order, and this is what they got.
I think Best Picture, it encompasses every element of filmmaking, and it should be the last one. I think it's the top award. It should be the end. Play around with the other order as much as you like. That's my opinion. Nick, do you have a thought?
My thought is that director was so early tonight. I was so shocked by that. I mean, we knew Chloe was going to win, but I feel like, you know, that's a huge award that should be later on. So having that early, and then also with cinematography, with Nomadland losing, I was like, oh crap, is this going somewhere else where Best Picture may not go to Nomadland? So those kind of like kept the intensity going, but obviously it turned out how we expected it to. I don't mind it not being last. Again, for the same reasons. I would have loved Best Actress to be last as well, just because that's the race we've been talking about for 3 months and had no idea what was going to happen. So I think Frances's speech with Picture was better than her actress speech. A fitting tribute to Wolf. Yeah. Everybody on the stage howling. It's very, very cute.
I didn't mind that. The thing I liked about it, like we're saying, like I appreciated that. Like it felt like the Oscar producers were at least like paying attention to what we've been talking about, which is like, boy, Nomadland is a winner. Like there's no drama there. But that's why, again, like Best Actress was the race. And I just don't understand how that wasn't last, even if it was Frances. It's just,
yeah, and like because they've been doing interviews the past couple of weeks where they're like, we're mixing up the order so people will be surprised.
Right.
So, and I think I talked with Chris like last week about like what order are they doing?
Well, having the Best Director so early too is like, I felt that was like, and again, like I did not dislike the show actually, but like it felt like that was going to be such a historic win, even if we all knew that she was going to win. It just kind of felt like anticlimactic and maybe a little rushed where it was in the ceremony, and she just kind of won, and then like, you know, it was just like, okay, moving on to like whatever was next. I don't even remember. I just felt like that could have had a little more weight because of like the significance of her win, but maybe not. I don't know. I just was like, I guess I was expecting that to be closer to the end as well, like it normally is, but sure. Whatever.
I mean, I think in normal times that would be a standing O moment in the theater, you know,
right.
But was the only standing ovation for Tyler Perry?
I think so, or did I think so.
Was there any other one?
Not that I remember.
Yeah. So like it really did feel like it was just like another dude winning Best Director, you know, like the way it was, you know, she won and then gave her speech and everyone was just kind of like sort of tepidly clapping. But yeah, it's historic and it was so early. I totally forgot about that. Cause like we expected her to win. So I guess I probably would have moved that one into the second half and not the first half.
Is there, let's go, like, is there a category, because there were 24 Oscars or awards handed out tonight, so I guess technically more than 24 because some awards have more than one people get a trophy, but
23 because they combine sound.
Oh yes, sound. Oh, sorry, I'm in such a 2019 mindset. So there were 23 categories this year. Each of you pick a category you'd like to talk about. We'll start with you, Nick. One we haven't talked about yet.
Oh my God. We could go documentary short with Colette, because that's the first one I think I lost. That was totally unexpected. I think Colette was my third pick. Concerto was second, and
a love song.
Whatever. Yeah. Again, it's like now that it lost, I'm like, I can't even think of them.
Yeah.
Very surprising. Netflix's only loss in the short categories. And, that the joke is about, the Academy choosing the Holocaust themed short or feature. And Colette was my favorite of the bunch, but I kind of just went with consensus and thinking Latasha was going to win. So that was the first shock of the night for me.
And did you get them all? You got all them all right last year, Nick, didn't you?
Last year, yeah. So I think I was down 5 this year. It was
okay. Well,
pretty big.
how did it feel getting your first Oscar category wrong in
was
more
terrible.
than a year? Yeah.
It was a dagger. My friends were like, well, that's it. I was like, yeah. See you later.
Yeah. Well, still not bad, only 5. Rob, Chris, what's a category you'd like to touch on?
I mean, song. I don't think we've talked about it enough. No. Not just that Husavik lost, but that Fight for You won. I just thought that was like a big upset. I had it like buried, honestly. I had it 4th behind Husavik, Diane Warren's song from Life Ahead and Speak Now. I was really surprised that Fight for You won, and that actually led me to a brief moment of thinking, what if Judas and the Black Messiah wins Best Picture? Because I had seen that popping as like a number 2 on a lot of anonymous ballots, and it already had the acting win. So I was like, what? That would be weird. Yeah, I was really stunned by that. I personally thought Husavik should win. And again, this is gonna, not to make this sound like the Oscars need to be like a Kids' Choice Awards or an MTV thing, but I think they should make the voters vote for best song after seeing the performances during the show. I'm reminded of a few years ago when what was the song from Greatest Showman? This Is Me, right?
Yeah.
Was that it? It lost to the song from Coco. Very nice song from Coco. But when This Is Me, they performed it at the Oscars, it brought the house down. I remember Amazing. I was actually, Viola Davis was like in the crowd, like going hard for This Is Me. The whole audience was loving it, and then it lost. And this one, again, today on the pre-show, they had Husavik performed. I was weeping watching it. It was so good.
I want to be an romantic child. So
yeah, it just was unbelievable. The fireworks, it was great, and like all the performances were good, and like these songs are fine. But like if you watch that performance today, you'd be like, Husavik should win. And I have a feeling if Oscar voters care about, like, even want to pay attention to this today or tomorrow, if they watch that clip, if they were there and they weren't able to watch, they might be kicking themselves for picking Fight for You over Husavik because the performance was so good. So yeah, that was a big bummer for me, just on a bunch of levels. But congratulations to her. I thought her speech was really nice. And again, that song is good, and I like Judas and Black Messiah, but Husavik should have won.
When you said it reminded you of a previous performance, I thought you were gonna reference Gaga's performance for the song from The Hunting Ground with Diane Warren, and then she brought out like all the sexual assault survivors, and then they gave it to Spectre.
Yes, and like, Spectre not a good song.
Yeah, like when that happened, I was like, all of them were just like shitting their pants. Like they wish like they could have their ballots back and re-vote for that category.
Yeah, what if? I mean, that would have been maybe Soderbergh if they ever dare to let him back after this. Maybe he could add that next year. Vote on your phone or something for best original song.
Wait. If it was voting on your phone after the performances, imagine how much effort would be put into those Oscar performances. No, like, imagine, like, you know, yeah, they'd all the producer be going, we have to play last. We have to be the last song playing, all this sort of stuff. Oh, my. Joyce, is there a category you want to break down for us that we haven't touched on yet?
I mean, well, I knew Chris would take hours. Original song. I guess, I mean, we sort of mentioned its win before, but cinematography, Mank winning 2 Oscars when we thought it would just take 1.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of films won 2 tonight, didn't they? Judas, Mank, The Father, Soul,
yeah.
Rainey. Yeah. They all like
for Chicago.
Yeah. They're all coming in by twos except Chicago.
Yeah, Sound of Metal one too. Also, right?
It's Sound of Metal one too. Chicago missed the arc. The arc like without Chicago, Trial of the Chicago 7. Very good. Any last highlights from any of you before I bring on our next panel?
I mean, I think this show will get. I think people will be negative on this show. I think the reviews maybe will be strongly negative, but I thought it was pretty good. I liked it overall. I think it was something different, and I do hope. I think Daniel was saying this maybe in the live blog. Or I hope they take some of the things they did this year and actually bring it. If they do a bigger production next year at the Dolby and stuff, which they probably will. I hope they bring some of the elements they added here to it next year. I think there was some decent things that they could take away. And while this is maybe the only time they'll do it like this, they should not throw out, all the things that Soderbergh brought here.
And you're talking about the Oscar show, not our post show, which I think is going to get nothing but rave reviews.
Totally the best. The show rules.
Yeah. Okay,
including our impeccable beginning. So.
Yes. People love when something goes wrong. That's why people tune in every year. Okay. Anyone else got a highlight or something they're itching to talk about, Nick?
No, I love the beginning. Joyce said that earlier. And I really wish it continued like that. And I'm just finally happy they're over so we don't have to be stressing about this for a while.
Yeah.
Well,
Nick. Yeah, Joyce, do you want to say something?
I know. I wish that energy from that first, that prologue, I guess, continued on. And I do agree with Chris that, I think there are some elements that they should try to keep going forward. And I mean, I think the general consensus is everyone is going to dunk on this show and hate on it. But you know what? People are always going to remember it, not just because it was the COVID Oscars. But yeah, I think they just kind of missed the mark in certain places, not having visuals, and then just the energy level. It was down for the most part, but I liked what they were trying to go, what they were trying to do. And yeah, don't be afraid to not put Best Picture last sometimes.
There you go. Yes. Now I found my watch. It's right here. And you guys are out of time. We've got to move on to our next panel, but thank you so much, Joyce, Chris, and Nick, for all your insights, analysis, and thoughts. Okay. Oh boy, look at this. We're one short of a Brady Bunch. Okay. We are looking good. We are now joined by...
Damn right we're looking good.
We're now joined by Charles Bright, David Buchanan, Riley Chow, and Tony Ruiz. And I'm ready to break down and celebrate the Oscars with you guys. I've just been brought a glass of what I was told by a young boy is water from the mountain. Oh, very nice.
You got a young boy living in your house? What's happening here?
No. It's I was walking down. I don't know. I was trying to Minari reference. No,
just saying.
Yeah, no. Very no. Good clarification, Tony. So we're here. We're here to break down the Oscars. Charlie Bright, I know you've always got hot takes. What's the one on the top of your mind right now at this hour?
It feels weird because I didn't make some sort of weird grand entrance that I usually try to do and try to ham it up with everything. I think, yeah,
where's the prop?
I actually admit I am on the train that this overall was a pretty good Oscar telecast, and it's one of the best ones we've had, I think, in years. The problem is that it was going really well, and then it took a turn towards the end. And I was talking with some people on a Zoom call during it, and I heard someone say, Best Picture is coming up. like right before the in memoriam reel, and I was thinking, no, that can't be right. And then sure enough, Rita Moreno comes out and it says Best Picture behind her, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I am on your side on this, Matt. I think Best Picture, it's the culmination of the evening. It should be last. But this also shows you cannot plan an Oscar ceremony based on what you think will happen. You cannot plan, and you really shouldn't plan any awards ceremony based around what you think will happen. You can tell that they were planning on that being a Chadwick win at the end, and it just was so to have that. You had that Frances McDormand speech during the Best Picture presentation, and then to go from that to her 30-second, or not even 30-second Best Actress speech when she just goes up there and that's what she does, and that is fine. But because of the way the producers arranged it, it just did not. It was so anticlimactic. And then the last award, the person wasn't even there for. We didn't even have anybody accepting it for him, and it just felt so weird at the end of it, where you're like, wait, that's it? You know, it was so weird. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good show. I could have used a bit more clips rather than just talking about these people and talk. You know, I could have used a bit more of that. But I still think overall it was a pretty good show. And you know, I thought a lot of it hit the right notes.
Tony, what are your thoughts on the show?
I'm gonna really push back against all the people that are crapping on this. I thought it was one of the best, if not the best, ceremony in recent memory. I mean, first of all, you had the atmosphere. The atmosphere was absolutely perfect. This was a ceremony that was intimate. It was not overly glitzy, which in the light of the last year and a half of events was, I think, a welcome change. I think it would have been out of place if they had gone over the top on the glitz and the glamour. It was very subdued. It was very intimate. And except for the bit at the end, except for the way that the presentation happened at the end and ending on such an anticlimactic note, I mean, that's just, to me, it's a terrible choice to not end with Best Picture. Even though I was thrilled to have Anthony Hopkins as the winner, and not only because I predicted it, but I just feel like the ceremony as a whole worked so well. Starting with that long tracking shot with Regina King, it felt like the opening of an old 70s movie. I almost felt for a second like Quentin Tarantino was directing it. The energy, the emotion in some of the speeches. When you let the speeches go on without playing them off, you're always going to get a speech that's maybe a little boring. But who cares? This is the biggest night of these people's lives, and they can be boring. But they were all emotional and sincere, and I just loved it. I really hope. I mentioned this on the reactions thread at Gold Derby that when Bryan Cranston said next year we'll be back at the Dolby, and I was going, oh, I really loved the vast majority of the ceremony.
Riley?
Well, I thought that 2020 ended in 2020, but it felt like I was kind of still living it with the ceremony that we got here. This ceremony was for people who really love movies, but I don't love movies that much. They didn't play any clips.
What? Gold Derby.
I'm saying that even to the extent that I love movies, I felt that this ceremony was not for me.
Okay,
speeches after speeches. We got no clips, except for in the feature categories for international, animated, documentary, and the main one. But I mean, even for something like the short categories. Like, these are films that nobody has seen, but it would be great if some people could go see them, if they could be inspired to go see them by learning a little bit during the ceremony what these films actually are. I loved it during the Best Sound presentation when, it was eerily quiet. We got no clips of the films, of their great sound work. Instead, we just kind of got awkwardness in the room. And they're like, and here's the sound guy from Greyhound. And it's like, what the hell is that? So, yeah, the ceremony was okay.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. There was a lot of speeches, not many clips, and like sort of, as anyone knows in cinema, why show someone something when you can tell them about it? But no, I think it was. I think Tony is right. I think they got the atmosphere and the intimacy, and there's some real things to lead into. I think when they made a hit, they hit, but it did feel a little self-important to me, and like they didn't lighten it up. They could have lightened it up at some times or whatever, and clips I think would have been good too. What do you think, David? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, how do you not show a clip of visual effects when the award is for visual effects? It doesn't really make sense to me. And they always have problems with presenting certain categories and trying to convey, what the award is really for when the presenters are kind of rattling off names. But they've always done it so much more, to the extent that it hasn't been good. They've done it so much more innovatively than they did tonight. They'll have the typescript out of, the screenplay, for example. So I don't know. I felt like that really fell short. I did like the ceremony overall, although one of the things that was mentioned in the Gold Derby blog that I didn't agree with was I really missed the orchestra. I know that, we hate like cutting speeches short and not hearing.
Oh God, I didn't.
I hated not having an orchestra. I mean, you cannot have a good film score without an orchestra, and you just completely kind of, and I understand because it's a pandemic, you can't have, 40 players sitting together in close proximity. But the absence of it was really felt. That kind of grandiose sound of an Oscar telecast just was not there.
Yeah. No, I think it's very fair. Let's talk about some of the categories now, and let's start with Tony, who I believe you did very well predicting this year. Do you get I'm just seeing, I'm getting messages popping through. Did you get 17th of all users at Gold Derby? Is that right?
Apparently I did. This was news to me until about 2 minutes ago when I got texted.
So congrats, Tony. What's one of the upsets that you called that you're particularly proud of, and that you can sort of give us the reasons how you knew that was going to happen?
The two that I really kind of hung my hat on were, first of all, Colette in Doc Short. Having seen all of the Doc Shorts, it was the film that resonated with me the most. It was the film that I felt like hit a lot of the notes that Academy voters like to go to. It was about the Holocaust, which is right in their wheelhouse. It was emotional without being depressing, which I think is a key thing. There's even with the heavy emotional content of Colette, it was still strangely uplifting. It had a lot of weight to it. And then the other one that I picked was Anthony Hopkins for The Father. I never really bought into the Chadwick is a lock argument. And granted, I've been very vocal about this, is that, I've had a problem with the play of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom for 25 years, in terms of, I think Chadwick was amazing in a role that is really hard to do. But I felt like when people started seeing Hopkins in The Father, they realized that this was just one of those performances for the ages. So, and then, it broke so late with BAFTA and things like that. I just felt like it was one of those performances that is going to kind of stand the test of time. I honestly believe that Hopkins' win is one of the all-time. It's probably the best win in this category in this century, quite frankly.
Mm. When have you had Hopkins predicted all season, or did you break with him in the past week or so?
I had Hopkins initially, like when The Father was first announced, because I had read the play. I had read a paperback version of the play, and Frank Langella had won the Tony for it, and on Broadway, and then I had switched to Chadwick briefly, but then around the time of BAFTA is when I switched back to Hopkins.
Yeah. We haven't talked much about the supporting acting races yet, and by not much I mean not at all, I believe. Daniel Kaluuya won for Judas and the Black Messiah, the first win of the night for that film. David, do you have any thoughts on that win?
No, I mean, kind of surprising how those categories that we thought early on in the season were going to be so up in the air turned out to be the only locks of not the only locks of the evening, but in the acting categories, if you told me that we would have all been so confident about supporting actress, even just until SAG, we really had no idea. I thought, considering they were so locked, their speeches were so incredible. Like they were two of the best speeches of the night. And that's what's so exciting. Like when there's a predictable winner, and that goes back to the point you were making earlier about trying to build a ceremony around what you think is going to happen. Even if the winners are going to be predictable, those two speeches were so good that it made it really made those moments. Whereas, we all knew what the result was going to be. But no, I have no other comments on those categories.
Charles?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't as big on Kaluuya's acceptance speech because it really felt like it just went really on, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, I mean, I'm happy for it all, but this is why we have the orchestra usually. But yuh-jung was just absolutely wonderful. I mean, just I was talking with someone, and someone said, "Can we get a buddy cop movie with Glenn Close and yuh-jung?"
I think Glenn Close would be the first person to sign on to that. Yes,
absolutely. Hear that. But yeah, I didn't think. Yeah, I mean, supporting actress. We were. The only thing about it was that it just took a while to come into, to come into focus, and then once it did, it was just completely. It was completely obvious. I did kind of miss. I was actually kind of hopeful that we would have Chadwick and Viola win the lead categories. Because not just because they were what I was predicting. That's really the main reason. But it also was because it would have been incredible if we had 4 non-white acting winners. I think that would have been incredible. But we still got some incredible acting winners in the lead categories. I'm not trying to diminish their performances at all.
Yeah. Supporting actress, I thought was best speech of the night for mine. Eugene, what? Sorry.
Except Tyler Perry. I think he always steals the show.
Yeah, I always sort of the honorary award winners. I always don't like to put in the best speech or worst speech of the night since they have had time to prepare. They know they're winning. They're sort of writing a speech sort of thing for that moment where. Yeah, but yes, he was very good as well. But of the people who weren't sure whether they'd be giving a speech tonight or not, I think she gave the best one. And I just thought that was such a wonderful moment and such an important character in that film. I think that's a very good sort of, if that film had to win one award, I think that's a good one for it to win. The grandma's really at the heart. The film's dedicated to grandmas out there. So I just think that was lovely and wonderful. Whether you like Kaluuya's speech or not, if his parents had never had sex, we would have never heard it.
is there nothing better than that them cutting to Kaluuya's mother, and you literally see her mouthing, "What is he talking about?" and then putting her head in her hands, which made me so happy. It was just a delightful moment, and Yoo Jung-yoon saying, basically telling her two sons, like, this is what happens when mommy works really hard.
How about Amanda Seyfried just when they cut to her during Yoon's acceptance speech, and you just see Amanda Seyfried going, "I love her."
Yes, everybody loves her.
Yeah. Riley, any thought on the supporting races?
Well, I did like yuh-jung calling out Brad Pitt on not having been on set, and she did that because he was an executive producer of the film, so that's their connection there. But I'm glad that they've met now. But yeah, those were not that unpredictable.
Yeah. Okay, we don't have a whole lot of time, and we do have a lot of categories we haven't talked about yet. Let's try to take on a few of these. Is there any category that anyone's itching to talk about that we haven't had a chance to touch on yet?
Oh, shouldn't we talk about Best Actress?
I guess so. We talked about it in the first half, but let's touch on it now. Tony, I imagine this is one of the categories you got wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I got wrong. I got this one wrong, and I'm thrilled that I got it wrong. First of all, I think what we learned tonight is that Frances McDormand is going to at least, at some point, tie Katharine Hepburn with 4 Best Actress wins. It's going to happen. The fact that she won for this performance, in the Best Picture winner, such a quiet performance, such an interior performance, I think is just spectacular. Even though I had been predicting Viola Davis, but I just think that anybody who came into tonight thinking that they knew exactly what was going to happen, you're fooling yourself. You were making a guess. And regardless of who we think might have been better, I don't think you can really argue with this win. I don't think you can argue with this choice.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the actress race from anyone?
I will say, because of the order, it felt, and I may have said this before, but it felt a little anticlimactic to me, because we had already gotten Picture, and McDormand, even she really didn't care about it. Then again, but that's no surprise.
Yeah.
Wait, Charlie, did you keep your Frances McDormand prediction?
No, I had switched to Viola within the last week.
I had Frances until this week
same with
too.
Colette.
Yeah, I had Frances until this week too.
Go on, David. It's fine.
No, sorry, Charlie. No, I had her until this week too. After BAFTA, it made some sense, and also just the fact that if you're voting for Nomadland, especially if you're putting it in your #1 slot, there just had to be enough people that were also voting for McDormand because she is the film. I mean, there's so much about the film. I was really surprised it didn't win cinematography. There's so much about the film to love and admire, but she is at the heart of the film. So it just made, in hindsight, everything makes sense, but it just made sense that if it's getting enough #1 votes to win Best Picture, and maybe, it went a few other rounds, but it just makes sense that she would kind of get a lot of that support for Nomadland and Best Actress, especially in such a splintered field.
And with all of the reasons why I was not picking her to win, one that I never gave credence to was this whole thing that I heard from a lot of people about, it's too soon after her second win. I never bought into that because, people win 2 Oscars for acting within 5 years all the time. I mean, think about it. Christoph Waltz was not known at all in the States in 2008. And then 4 years later, he has 2 supporting actor Oscars. just think of Katharine Hepburn. She won her third the very year after she won her second. This kind of thing happens all the time. So it's actually not that surprising on that level.
Tom Hanks winning back-to-back.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Just sort of. Oh yeah, no, go Riley.
Frances McDormand. She's interesting because it's one of those things with the Oscars where we kind of pick and choose what rules to apply. You know, like, do you watch what's happening throughout the season, or do you kind of just go with the most kind of common sense, kind of most obvious answer? So, like earlier in the season, I had Frances McDormand winning, as I think a lot of us did, because she's so respected, and she's in the Best Picture frontrunner, all that kind of stuff. She won the most critic awards, but then she starts losing to everybody, so you kind of go off that track. And then the flip side of that is that Nomadland wasn't able to pick up cinematography, and that's an award that they've won for most of the season, not at ASC. But again, it's kind of the obvious thing where you think, like, okay, what's the most obvious cinematography contender? And I thought that was Nomadland because of the big skies. But maybe it's black and white that was more obvious, or maybe they were putting a bit more thought into it about what actually makes great cinematography as opposed to just skies.
Yeah, and like that is interesting. We had Mank, which went into the night with the most nominations, 10, although no one's really predicted. It wasn't being predicted, if you go with Gold Derby averages, to win more than one. The production design award, it ended up winning 2. So I don't know, most films that have 10 nominations and only win 2, it might be a bad night, but it was probably a better night than a lot were expecting for Mank. Any thoughts on those 2 wins? One was expected, production design. One was an upset, although most had it in second place. I think someone in the pre-show made a good comment. Like, go Riley.
But I would say Nomadland was like 100% for cinematography.
I wouldn't have put it at 100.
Wise man.
I mean, if you when you're building like a case for Best Picture, it just seemed like one of the trophies. Not that it needed to win, but that it's not going to take 4, 5, 6, 7 trophies. So which are the ones that it's going to amass on the way to Best Picture? It just seemed like that was like key.
Yeah, I think, like, obviously the black and white impressed people. Not all black and white films nominated in this category have gone on to win, though. So, but yeah, obviously, go.
It also didn't have as much of a flashy competitor. Like I always think of black and white ones that have lost, like Man Who Wasn't There, the Coen Brothers movie, lost to the first Lord of the Rings movie. Which of course is your very flashy. So there wasn't, you had News of the World Trial, Chicago 7, but you didn't have any. But you didn't have anything that was like the really flashy type, like a war or some sort of action movie.
Yeah. And I think
Roma did win. Yes.
And
comment section.
Yeah, and I think Mank is a film that probably would have won score, perhaps, if Soul wasn't around, which was a film that was all about music. So which sort of, I guess, brings us to the animated film sort of side of things. I know, Charles, you're one of our resident animated experts. Soul wins Best Animated Film.
So animated.
Yeah. And yes, and wins. Yes, he's the animated one of the bunch, Charlie. But Soul wins Best Animated Film. Pete Docter becomes first person to win Best Animated Feature 3 times at the Oscars, the previous 2 being Up and Inside Out. Up also won the Score Award, won Best Music, which Soul has done as well. I believe Pete Docter is the best director in film for the past sort of 15 years based on those sort of 3 works. Charlie, what was your thoughts on Soul's big night?
I mean, it was a nice cap off to what we thought would happen. I really thought Soul was incredibly charming, and I was happy to see it win. And I was also happy to see it win original score, especially getting Jon Batiste that Oscar. What I'm really hoping we get now is on tomorrow night's Late Show with Stephen Colbert, where Jon Batiste is the band leader. I just want, I don't care if it's for real or if it's a skit. I want Jon Batiste to, in the middle of Steven doing his show, just walk in and acted like he's completely wasted with the Oscar in hand going, I don't need you anymore. I don't need any of you anymore.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Any other thoughts on the animated races? Animated short went to the
good for the guys from If Anything Happens, I Love You for animated short. That was I always like it when something other than your normal CGI animation wins, and that and seeing that kind of very raw 2D animation, I thought really worked for that.
We talked about Chadwick Boseman's loss for Rainey's Black Bottom, but it was able to win 2 awards. It was able to win makeup and hair, that's one category, as well as costumes, which it was favourite to win all 3, and the one it was upset in was actor. Any thoughts on those 2 wins for Rainey's Black Bottom?
I was, first of all, I thought that the makeup wins were that was one of the best speeches of the night. I thought she was so I just thought she was so great. I said this from the beginning of the season in terms of Ma Rainey, is that that play was always going to have a hard time in terms of translation to film. The fact that the production design, the costumes, the makeup, the fact that it was able to get as many nominations as it did, and now it's won 2. I think it speaks to the level of the talent that was behind that film, and even the fact that it was competitive in actor and actress. It might not have won those, but I don't think that that's a knock on the film. I think it's just that there were other choices in those categories. But I think that this is a film that's going to be talked about for quite some time.
Yeah, I completely second what Tony was saying about Mia Neal's speech for makeup and hairstyling. That was one of the best speeches of the night, and I particularly loved her line towards the end when she was talking about being recognized, as a black makeup crew, and what she said at the end, she said, and I know that one day it won't be unusual or groundbreaking, it will just be normal. Loved that.
Yeah,
that was such a great line. It was such a great line.
One of our other 2 winners tonight was Sound of Metal. We see that editing and sort of a sound award go hand in hand again, which isn't uncommon for the Oscars. Any comment on the Sound of Metal's wins tonight?
Other than the fact that I could hear Chris Beecham screaming when Riz Ahmed was presenting the Sound Award.
Same.
But I think both of those wins are incredibly well deserved. Mm-hmm. I think Sound of Metal doesn't get the respect that it necessarily deserves. I think the editing, I think the sound, and of course Riz Ahmed's performance in that film, and Paul Raci, who would have had my vote. I mean, Judas and the Black Messiah was my #1 film of the year, but I still would have voted for Paul Raci in supporting actor. I'm so glad to see that film get the recognition that I think it deserves.
Yeah, I think it was really a lot of the films this year, whether it's The Father, Sound of Metal, Nomadland, even a film that didn't win anything tonight, Charlie Chicago 7, are all films that had, I think, a pocket of passionate support in the Academy. I think they were films that people loved for different reasons. There didn't seem to be movies that were sort of making up numbers. Did seem like it was, which is why we saw so many win, I think, 2 Oscars tonight. What about, I thought an incredible speech was, which I sort of almost forgot about because it was towards the beginning of the night, was Another Round.
Oh, Thomas. Oh, God.
Film. Yeah. What a heartfelt moment. And
I don't feel like I can say too much because I'll get emotional because, I mean, as a dad myself, I did not know that.
No, neither did I.
I did not know that about Vinterberg, and I did not know that about the film. And I actually looked it up after that speech, and my God, I mean, first of all, props to Vinterberg for even being able to deliver that speech. And I think this was one of the advantages of the producers giving the winners space to talk. He was able to, at no point during his speech, and his speech was one of the longer ones of the evening, at no point during his speech was I bored or unengaged. And so, yeah, not everybody's going to be able to rise to that level, but I thought Vinterberg's speech was so emotional and so completely sincere, and it just wrecked me. And as a dad, I did not know that about him. I did not know that about this film. It was, and I give the kudos to the producers to make that decision to let him give that speech, to let the winners give the speech, whatever the result was, whether it was engaging or boring or emotional, it happened. And I thought that was just such a great choice on their part.
Yeah, and like in past years, if he probably would have played off before he started, then they wouldn't have even known that was coming. Like, you know, so I think I do like that they let the speeches breathe this year. Are there any we haven't talked about live action short?
Can I go
yet?
back to
no, please.
about,
no, please, Riley. Yes.
Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Like, that's a film that was disproportionately weak with the Academy, which we knew from nominations.
Yes.
So going off of that, I guess, you know, what we can learn for the future is that, you know, the nominations are a warning sign. And then on the other side, you know, we saw Mank and The Father do better with nominations with the Academy than, you know, just about with any other group. So here they are ultimately overperforming in the end, just as they did with nominations.
No, I think it's a good observation. We haven't talked about live action short yet. Does anyone have a thought on that film, Two Strangers?
Yikes.
Yikes. Okay. Elaborate.
I mean, I got it right. I got it right, but it was the most cynical of all my picks this year. Because you know, it does it does deal with timely subject matter. It's also just, you know, the execution of that can be unsettling, to say the least. I think that, but that again, that's the power of Netflix there, and Trayvon Free is, you know, he's very respected, well-known writer for comedy. And this is him, you know, coming into his own now as a filmmaker and a storyteller. And I thought his speech and Martin Desmond Rowe had one of the best speeches of the evening as well.
I completely agree. Even though I really did not like that movie, but at the same token, I think that one of the things, I mean, I don't think people have talked. You've seen a lot of things on social media about how Two Distant Strangers is like the worst thing, and I'm like, I don't necessarily. It's not Mediterranean, for God's sakes. And those of you that are your Oscar things, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, it's not one of those. It's not one of those wins that you go, how the hell did that happen? You know exactly how this one happened. So whatever the impact of the effectiveness of the film was, it worked on enough people. And I agree with Charlie. I think that they gave a really wonderful speech, and it seemed to really resonate.
I think in these short categories, you know, for years we had the panels, so external factors didn't come into play at all. And then they got rid of the panels. Now you are open to voting for these if you should choose so. But we did see for a few years where I feel like people were only voting if they had actually watched all the nominees. We still got kind of winners, not necessarily from the biggest names. Whereas I feel like in more recent years, we're seeing, you know, the Dear Basketball or the Hair Love, or, you know, these bigger films with bigger names and bigger narratives taking the award over something that might have a more positive audience reception. Not always the case.
Yeah. Does that Riley also carry over to like a category like Best Documentary Feature, where My Octopus Teacher won, which is a wonderful film, but also the only one that like people I know that don't follow the Oscars watched this past year?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What do people think about My Octopus Teacher winning Best Documentary Feature?
Look, I think this was probably one of the strongest documentary fields in years. And that's even without Welcome to Chechnya, which was my favorite documentary of the year. I think what with this particular film, I think My Octopus Teacher was the most accessible. I think it was the most kind of universal. I think everybody could reach into this story. Collective, better. These films, Crip Camp, The Mole Agent, these were films that were very tough, and I think that there was something really accessible about My Octopus Teacher. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did, but I can't quibble with this win. It really was just a wonderful, wonderful surprise to me. And I think that's how it struck most of the people. I think it was just a wonderful year for documentaries in this category.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Octopus? David, do you have any thoughts on Octopus Teacher's win?
Yeah, just from even if you didn't see these documentaries, if you just watch the clips that they showed, and it was nice that we got clips for the category, like you can see why it won. Like just in that 30-second fragment in after the year, like you could just see how it would resonate with voters.
Yeah,
and it's nice to see a documentary win that really that sometimes it feels like a documentary will win because of its subject matter, but this one really felt like it won because of how cinematic it is. The cinematography is so gorgeous in it. The underwater filming is absolutely breathtaking, and the score is just gorgeous. I've heard some people say it's manipulative, and to me, I go, well, yeah, that's what film scores do, and so I had no problem with it.
Yeah.
It was interesting when that film won. My parents, who are here right now, my parents let out an audible "yay," because it was their favorite film. So,
yeah,
it's too bad Craig Foster we didn't get to see him accept the award, because he actually is a producer, so he gets a trophy.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. The visual effects went to Tenet, another Christopher Nolan film that has taken out that prize. I believe Interstellar and Inception also did, but first Christopher Nolan film to win that doesn't start with I, correct? It could be. I might get fact checked on that one. But that's a good win. Expected but deserving win there for Defying Gravity with a bit of a nod. The two categories we haven't talked about yet much are the two screenplay categories.
I will say
first ones.
Yeah.
Adapted
What are you
screenplay. I that was the one where I let out a huge cheer.
Me too.
When Brian Zeller and Christopher Hampton won that, I was very, very happy about that. And Riley and me have been on this train for a while. I will reluctantly concede to Riley that he was on this a bit before me.
The beginning of time.
But as I said, as I replied to you, just because you're accurate doesn't mean you're interesting. Okay. But no. So we were on this for a while, that the father really could be a real threat to win here, and I was so happy that it did. And it's actually interesting that we got almost like with Spotlight. It had bookend awards of the evening, the first award of the evening and the very last award of the evening, and The Father had the second award of the evening and the very last award of the evening.
Yeah, but that's the result of some stupid planning on the producer's part.
Yeah, well, we hit that right.
Nobody is happier than I am that Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor. I think that was, I still think that is one of the greatest performances to ever win Best Actor, in quite some time. But that being said, what the hell were people thinking putting that as last?
Yeah, but you know what? If Hopkins had showed up, it would have been a brilliant payoff to the gamble. Like if they could have gotten,
he wasn't going to. He hasn't been anywhere.
Yeah, but if he was able to somehow participate, right? Because either you kind of culminate the evening with a tribute to Chadwick and a terrific win, or a huge upset and the kind of culmination of a career and Hopkins' second Oscar. Like it felt like almost like a no lose, and this was the only bad outcome is that your honoree doesn't come.
Yeah. No, very good. And Promising Young Woman won the original screenplay award. That was his only win of the night. So it's nice that won something. And I
thought Nomadland's speech was wonderful as well.
Yeah,
I like it when people are truly shocked and they're a little stumbling, as long as they're not too stumbling. And I thought she had the right. She had the right composure and everything. I was such a fan of that.
Yeah. And such a screenplay that broke the mold and your expectations and the way it was structured and stuff like that. A very deserving win there. I'm not going to do what the Oscars did, and we're going to end by reflecting on Nomadland, the best film of the year, according to the Academy of Motion Pictures Art and Sciences. And does anyone want to just give a quick comment on what they think that says about this year in film, that Nomadland was the best picture? Anyone, any thoughts on that?
I think that 2020 for a lot of people was a year about, and a lot of years are like this, but 2020 especially felt like it was a year where the central theme was uncertainty. And Nomadland is a story about people who live in a world of uncertainty, and especially when you're just going around and you're living out of your van. I think that it's about embracing that and trying to make the best out of that situation. Like they said, there's no goodbyes. There's just see you down the road. Because at the same time where you're embracing the uncertainty, you also are not, embracing. I can't think of what the word I'm trying to think of is, but I think it just reflects that in a very honest way. And it doesn't. And the main thing about it also is that it doesn't look down on people, on the people who are living this life. One of the things that I think really can hurt something like that is if it has that perspective where it's looking down on the people that are like that. It just changes the tone entirely.
Yeah. Any last thoughts on Nomadland?
Yeah. Nomadland was my number 2 film of the year. Judas and the Black Messiah was my number 1. But I think that in this year where we've had such turmoil and such heartbreak. It's not any secret to anybody who's watched Gold Derby that COVID affected me rather personally. I almost died of it. My grandmother died of it. Nomadland really was almost like a balm to what we've all, I think, been dealing with for the last 12 to 15 months. So I think it's a memorable win. I think it's an incredibly positive choice. I just think that when we look back over the recent years of Best Picture winners, that Nomadland really came out at the right time, at the right and has the right message. I don't know if Chloe Zhao could have predicted this thing when she was making this film. But I think it's just one of the great Best Picture winners of recent memory. So,
yeah, agreed.
I'd say, oh yeah, you go ahead, David.
No, go ahead, Riley. No, I was just going to say I totally agree. I think the way it kind of deals with economic precarity, as Charlie was saying, but also with such optimism, hope, intimacy, and kind of an open heart was really very moving in a year where a lot of people are feeling, similar precarity or isolated. And I also think really crucially, despite, McDormand's kind of imploring us to see this and all these films on a big screen, which is, obviously would enhance the experience. It really translated well, I think, to a smaller screen, like for everybody watching at home. Despite the expansiveness of some of the visuals, it's such an intimate film. And it really felt like, watching it on screen at home kind of conveyed some of that intimacy. So I think that too really helped it just kind of connect with audiences wherever you may be watching it, which was probably not in a theater.
I was just going to say, like, I'm here for the game, like Nomadland was not my favorite movie of the year. My favorite movie of the year almost never wins. So that's fine. But like Nomadland, it does restore a lot of the precursors that we like to look to, like BAFTA. They have finally gotten it right for the first time since 12 Years a Slave, I think. And, because we got all these awards this year go to films that were more critics' picks, like Frances McDormand winning or yuh-jung winning supporting actress. Next year, we probably will get, a Green Book Bohemian Rhapsody year, because it doesn't seem like we can ever go from, Moonlight to like a Nomadland. We have to have something else in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would also just say that I'm very happy about Nomadland winning, because, like BAFTA, I had not gotten Best Picture right since 12 Years a Slave. So thank God that streak is broken.
Yeah, and I do think with Best Picture at the Oscars, it often is representative of sort of story or narrative. And I think all the things you guys just touched on, talking about the themes and how it was relevant to this year, really struck a chord with Academy members and was the right film for this year and this moment in which the Oscars fell. And I love when nuanced and understated films do well at the Oscars, because sometimes you have the flashier fare overshadow them. So I thought that was fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for your thoughts, analysis, and insights. Big thanks to Tony, Charles, David, Chris, Nick, Joyce, and Riley, who's been producing the whole pre-shows today, post-shows. Thanks, Riley, for all your hard work. And congrats to Tony for your great predictions. Congrats to Zach and Daniel, who I think topped the editors' list this year. People to maybe listen to more next year. Riley, are there anyone else who topped any lists or anything like that? Who was our top user this year? Or our top, let's see, maybe I've got this. Our top user was Wasilicky or Wasilik or something. I'm very bad at pronouncing things. So
my God, you're ending this almost on the same level as Anthony Hopkins winning Best Actor.
Yeah. There we go.
Well,
oh, no.
We've got a comment that somebody got 17 out of 23. Not too bad.
Yeah. There you
Good
go.
job.
Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. Thank you. And thanks for watching, guys. And you can go to goldderby.com to continue following next year's Oscars, as well as the upcoming Emmy Awards that'll be later this year.